let's go to something else, and that is the very thing that's at stake here is the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead. And Jim Tabor says that actually Mark doesn't give us a physical resurrection. He gives us a spiritual resurrection, and so this is okay. But that's not true. Tell us why.
Well, Tabor's trying to make a distinction between an empty tomb story, which simply has the tomb empty, and an actual resurrection appearance story, which shows a physical Jesus. And so he's saying the empty tomb doesn't represent a physical resurrection. But that's bogus. And the reason it's bogus is Mark is writing, most people will put him in close to AD 70. Most non-conservative scholars. Conservative scholars will date him about 10 years earlier. But that's not so important here. What's important is he writes after Paul writes. Paul writes at a time in which the Christian church is preaching a physical resurrection. We know that from 1 Corinthians 15. We know that from what the church is preaching out there in the fields that's converting people. In fact, we know it goes all the way back to the 30s because it converts Paul, who is a Pharisee. Paul has a Pharisaical view of resurrection. That's a physical resurrection. That's not
which
just
goes
a
back to
spiritual
the Maccabees.
Which goes back to 2 Maccabees 7. There's a wonderful story in 2 Maccabees 7. Well, actually, it's a gruesome story, but it's wonderful in making the point. And that is, you have 7 sons being executed in front of their mother. They are being dismembered one at a time and bleeding to death. When it comes time for the 3rd son to be executed, he sticks out his tongue and he sticks out his hands and basically says, you can have these because I'm getting them back. Now, that couldn't be more graphic that there's a belief in a physical resurrection.
Yeah, also you have to posit this thing that James, who was a skeptic all of his life, he lived with his own brother, Jesus, and was a skeptic, didn't believe in him. What did he say converted him? He saw the risen Jesus, all right? Now, you have to postulate the fact is that he somehow helped Mary, and they got the tomb out of Joseph of Arimathea's tomb and brought it over to this Talpia tomb, and then knowing that he had the bones right there, he went out and preached a physical resurrection. That makes James an incredibly bad guy.
Either that or psychologically very schizophrenic.